What if I told you that you could confidently analyze a short-term rental deal without even knowing the address? This completely changes how we evaluate properties. Every week, we get messages from people who say, I love this deal, but I want to double check the numbers before moving forward, and I don't even have the address yet. I get it. Running the numbers is critical, but you don't need the full address to do it. In this video, I'll show you step-by-step how to run Airbnb comps using just the general area and listing details. No guessing, no fluff. I'm on the acquisitions team here, and I help buyers and operators do this every single day. So let's go ahead and break it down. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. We help investors like you secure cash flowing rental properties without the overwhelm. Today, we're talking about a powerful skill, how to run rental comps without needing the full address. You'll learn how to use the map radius tool effectively, how to find comparable listings on Airbnb, the key filters that make your analysis accurate, and how to determine if a deal's projection is legit. So if we go onto our site on LoCasa, what you're going to see is a bunch of different properties that are all pre-approved for short-term rentals. So this means all of these deals, these owners have raised their hands and said, yes, I want to have a owner come in, a business, they can Airbnb it, they can sublease it for under 30 days, they can put it on third-party websites, they can sign a corporate lease, that's totally fine. So these are all pre-approved for short-term rentals. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through an example. So just kind of scrolling through and looking, one of the first things that I'm noticing is this pool home in Jacksonville, Florida. So if we go ahead and we click on it, one thing you guys will also know if you've been on our site, we don't include any address on any of our deals. So you can see here all of the information relevant to the property, like the rent price, the yearly projections, whether it's furnished or not, obviously the location, any important details, home type, bed and bath count, when it's available, the deposit, our acquisition fee, parking, if they're open longer than 12 months, any type of features, and we also include a calculator that shows you potential monthly profits. Now, we basically include, and of course, we can't forget photos, right? We basically include everything you need to know about a deal in order to make a decision on if you want to move forward with next steps. And next steps is usually touring the property, applying, speaking with the owner, connecting, working out terms, things like that. Now, we don't include the address, like I said, but we do include a 3-mile radius for you to be able to see a general location of where the property is located. Now, a lot of people will ask why we don't share the address. Well, number one, we're a locating agency, so this is how we run our business. But it also protects the deal and it avoids spam or premature outreach to owners. At the end of the day, they're working with LoCasa. They understand that we're a trusted source. We work with a lot of different clients who are professionals in this space, so they want to make sure that they're only getting connected to serious individuals that are ready to go, that have the proper items in place, such as proof of funds, business documentation, any other information that the owner may need. So like I said, the address, we do still release it. We have it and we can release it once you decide you would like to move forward with the property and you're certain that it's a good next step that you'd like to take. So like I said, in order for you to run comps, you don't necessarily need the address. All you're going to do is if you get the address, you're going to go on AirDNA and you're going to get the exact same projections that we got. In order to actually run comps and get an idea on what the property can realistically make, we can go ahead and show you that directly just utilizing AirDNA or Airbnb. Today, I'm more than likely just going to use AirDNA, which I will break down for you. But this 3-mile radius should give you everything that you need in order to determine if the property is going to be around the projections that you see here. Now, just kind of looking at this deal, for it to be $2,500 for a 4-bedroom, 1-bath in Jacksonville, Florida with a pool, this seems like a pretty good rate. Now, $45,000, and if we're looking at the potential profit, you're projected to bring in almost $1,000, which is not bad. But because this is a pool home in Florida with so many bedrooms, yes, it only has 1 bathroom, but with 4 bedrooms, I think that the $45,000 is a little bit on the lower side just based off experience. Now, because it's a pool, it probably requires a little bit more maintenance. So even if we were to increase the additional monthly expenses, which usually accounts for utilities, insurance, things like that, if we were to even up it to 20%, you're looking at almost $800 a monthly profit. Now, we're going to go ahead and run comps and see if this $45,000 number is accurate, if it can make more or if it could potentially make less. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up AirDNA on our free account. So we do have a paid account, but in order for you guys to effectively see how we run comps, even without having a paid account and without having the full address, what type of comps you can pull to determine if these projections are accurate or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Jacksonville, Florida. I was already looking at this market before, so we're just going to click on that. Okay, so we're now looking at Jacksonville, Florida. We can go ahead and minimize this with the arrow, and then of course we only want to look at properties that are STR listings because we want to see properties that are already listed on Airbnb or VRBO. Now I'm going to just start zooming in, but one of the important things you're going to want to do is make sure that you zoom into the area where the property is generally located. So we're going to make sure that it's within the same general location as what we have on our listing. So right here we can see it's by 𝐻𝐢𝐦𝐸 Recreational Airport, Normandy Village, Oak Hill Park. It's near West Beltway, which is a main street or a main highway. And then we're going to go back to AirDNA and we're going to make sure that we zoom in close to this area. That's step number 1. So right here we can see 𝐻𝐢𝐦𝐸 Recreational Airport, Normandy Estates. I'm assuming this is West Beltway. So now that we're in the general location, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we put the proper filters in place. So if we go back and we look at the listing, we can see that this property, we remember it does have a pool, 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and any additional amenities that we can think of, like washer and dryer is included, which is great, air conditioning, even Wi-Fi is included. So we can always put those as amenity filters as well, but some of the most important things are the bed and bath count and then any amenities. On top of that, it's the entire place, so of course we want to put that. So let's go back here. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it at 10 plus because since it is a 4-bedroom, you can usually add air mattresses, maybe a pull-out couch, so 10 plus should be just fine. 4 bedrooms, 4, and then 1 bathroom. So we're going to see if we can pull any 1 bathrooms. I'm assuming that we won't, so we might have to increase it to 2 bathrooms, maybe even 3, but it is the entire place. And it is a house. Okay, so we're going to apply that. And then when we go to amenities, we're going to go ahead and hit pool. We can also put air conditioning. I think that that's fine. Most places are going to have it. It also has parking. So we can see if we produce any results. But what I'm seeing right now is we're not. So we might have to increase it to 2 bathrooms. I think it's the bathrooms that's an issue because even if we scroll out, we're not seeing anything. And we want to keep it within the general location. So if we're still not pulling any comps, then we're going to have to increase the bathroom count. So let's go ahead and increase it to just 2 for now and see what we can pull. All right, so we're pulling a few. Now let's go ahead and start with the one that we think would be the closest, which is right here. So let's see here. Now, one of the things that's important to note as well is when you're looking at comps, if you're on a free account, you can't see the projected revenue, occupancy, or days available. But one way that you can determine how long the property has been listed online is by the amount of reviews that it has. So from what we can see here, it's a 5-star, which is great, but it only has 1 review. So if it only has 1 review, it more than likely has been listed for less than a year. But what we really want to look for, and depending on how many comps we can produce, you can be flexible with this just slightly, and I'll kind of go into that as we look through more comps. But when you're looking at amount of reviews, you really want to look for something that's over 20 reviews. Because if it has over 20 reviews, it more than likely has been listed for over a year or longer. And then usually this average daily rate that you see is going to be accurate. Sometimes they're really low, sometimes they're really high and inflated, but usually you can determine if this number right here is pretty accurate just based on how many reviews they have. And then on top of that, when it comes to star count, again, we can be a little flexible with this, but you really want to look for properties that have 4.8 stars or higher. Because usually if they have over 20 reviews, 4.8 stars or higher, this average daily rate is pretty much accurate. So if we even go on Airbnb, because right here it says 1, but sometimes when we go to Airbnb, it can show a higher amount of reviews. So let's see. Okay, so it's still just showing 1. So this would not be an accurate comp. Therefore, we want to go ahead and skip this comp. Although it's in the great general area of where our property is located, it just doesn't have accurate data. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to this one here on the far right. What I can see here is it does have a pool, which is great, 4.6 stars. It's a little bit lower than we'd like, but it does have over 20 reviews. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. We can tell it has a pool. Let's go to AirDNA. All right, 65 reviews, and the star count is actually higher than 4.6. It's 4.72, which is better than what we were looking at. So pool, and then another important thing to note is when you're looking at these properties, you want to see if it has a similar look. If it's overly luxury and our property is not luxury, this may not be an accurate comp. But if it's on the older side and really distressed, or it just has really basic furniture and you know that your property is going to be way more unique, it might be good for you to potentially account for that in your comps. that just means that your property can probably make more, and then you just want to keep that in mind as you're looking at everything. But overall, this property looks pretty similar, so we are going to go ahead and add this comp. So the way that we do that is just 224. Usually you'll have a spreadsheet and you can input like maybe, let's just say 5 to 7 comps. You can do more if you'd like, but just for the sake of this video, we'll maybe do 3 to 4. So 224, we're just keeping that in mind. Great. So that's one. Now if we go over here, we see this one. Well, this one's a 4.2, 8 guests, but 0 stars, 0 reviews. So, and it's only listed on VRBO. The average daily rate's great, but if it doesn't have any reviews, if it doesn't have any stars, it doesn't matter. So again, that 45,000 that we saw in the projections, that could be completely skewed, that can be completely inaccurate just because of comps like this that are being added into it. So we're going to ignore this one. Now if we go over here on the left, we'll see this property right here, which it has 5 stars but 0 reviews and is only listed on VRBO. 350 average daily rate, awesome, but it doesn't matter because there's no reviews, which is a little weird because it says that it has 5 stars. So maybe if we click on it, let's see. Okay, so it has 1 review, which it counts for something, but from what I can see, it looks like, does it have a pool? It says it does. It might be a community pool. Yeah, because I don't see anything in the, okay. Yeah, so I didn't see anything in the backyard, but it looks like it has a community pool, which most people are going to value a pool that's actually a part of the home. So you may actually be able to bring in more, but this only has 1 review with an average daily rate of 350. That could have been a one-off booking. So this isn't necessarily accurate. Now, it looks like there's some other properties in the same general area. They might be in the same neighborhood. Okay, so this one looks the same, 5 stars, 11 reviews, which is lower than 20, but still counts for something. That's why I said depending on how many comps you can pull, you might have to be a little flexible. But this one has an average daily rate of 398. So if we go on if we go on Airbnb, we can see here, okay, 12 reviews, 5 stars, great. Looks very similar. I think this is the same property just listed on Airbnb. So scroll down. Yep, it has the community pool. We will go ahead and add this comp because it has 5 stars. It has over 10 reviews, which is nice. It's better than the lower amounts that we've been seeing. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, average daily rate of 398. So we're going to account for this comp. Alrighty. And then if we move on, we will see this property. It has a pool, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, average daily rate of 112. It has no reviews, so this is something that we would not find accurate. Plus, it's very low for an average daily rate of what we were looking at. And right here, okay, so this one is higher, 152, 5 stars, 163 reviews, 4 bedroom, 2 baths. So let's go ahead and check this one out. Okay, so pool, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, over 4.8 stars, over 20 reviews. So this would be an accurate comp. Now, when you're looking at it, the property style, like it is overall a nice looking property. Like it's not distressed, like it overall has somewhat of a modern appeal, but you have to pay attention to, number one, the photos are not professional. So you already know by you creating professional photos, you're going to have the upper hand. It houses all the functional furniture and the amenities, but the uniqueness and the style of it could definitely be outdone. So if we were to come in and pick up this other property in Jacksonville, then you could potentially outperform this property. So we're going to go ahead and account for this comp. So I believe the average daily rate was 152. So we're going to go and account for that. And again, it is a lower rate. So again, these are all pretty different. So we're just going to have to average it out. But let's try to find one more. So I don't want to go too far out. The closest one I can really see besides what we looked at is the one all the way down here. I don't know if I want to account for it, but it does have 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 5 stars, over 20 reviews, 202 average daily rate. Let's go ahead and look at it on Airbnb just for the sake of one more comp. Okay, so again, functional furniture. The photos will look brighter than the other one, but again, still not professional. You can kind of tell. If we look, I don't see a pool. Where's the pool? I want to make sure it has a pool. Okay, I don't see any pool. Okay, well, there's a pool here. I don't know if that's a community pool or if it's a part of their property. We will account for this just for the sake of the comp, but this one is still like further out than where our general location is, so just keep that in mind. But we can go ahead and add this one plus 202. I believe that was the average daily rate. Okay, so just based on these 4 comps, if we were to average it out, we're looking at about $244 of an average daily rate. If we go back to the actual listing on our website, what you'll notice on all of our properties is in the photo section, the very last photo that we include, we have the projections that we pulled from AirDNA. So the very last photo you can see here. This is where we got our projected revenue of $45,000 with 66% occupancy and an ADR of 188. I just told you guys that out of those 4 comps that we pulled, the average daily rate now is 244. So 244 at 66% is going to be quite a difference. So let's go ahead and add it up. So 66% of a 30-day booking calendar would be about 20 days, 19.8. So 20 days times 244 is $4,800 a month, almost $4,900 a month times 12. That is almost $60,000 a year. It actually is $58,560. So if we were to go ahead and plug this amount, this new amount that we just pulled based on the comps into our calculator, with a 20% monthly expense, and we keep it at that, $2,500 rent, 20% monthly additional expenses, and a yearly projections of almost $60,000, we are looking at a monthly profit of almost $2,000 a month. And your rent is only $2,500 a month with a pool in Jacksonville, Florida, in a good overall neighborhood. So we basically doubled our potential monthly profit just by doing some simple comps. And guess what? We didn't even have the address, you guys. So that's exactly what I was trying to show you in regards to running comps without even needing an address. That alone should be able to show you, okay, I like this property, it looks good, I ran the comps, I have enough information to where I feel confident that I can move forward with next steps and potentially secure this deal. So hopefully you guys are kind of with me on this, you guys understand. Of course, like I said, we only ran about 3 to 4 comps, so in order to find stronger comps, you want to get about 5 to 10. One of the things that you could have done on AirDNA to potentially increase the comp accuracy is maybe adjusting the amenities. You don't necessarily have to put air conditioning and parking because most of them will have it. Or with the listing, you could potentially increase the bathroom count to 3. Bathroom counts aren't necessarily as important as bedroom counts or amenities, but it still matters. So maybe we can pull a couple more. I see one just popped up here. You know, there's more over here, but I really don't want to skew the numbers. I would really keep everything here. But overall, there's not that many over here. There's not that many with pools, which isn't necessarily meaning, that doesn't mean they don't have demand. It just means that they may not have enough supply. So just keep that in mind when you guys are running the numbers and looking at these opportunities. So a couple common pitfalls that you might want to pay attention to are high-end comps. So these are comps where it looks really luxury and maybe our property isn't as luxury, or it looks really high-end and our property just does not match that aesthetic. And if that is the case, then that could potentially inflate your projections, and ultimately that's going to affect your ability to be profitable if you're picking up a property that doesn't make sense financially. Another thing is seasonality. So you want to look at calendar bookings when you're on Airbnb, and you want to kind of see things across the board. Like, for example, if we're looking through here, we want to see, is their calendar booked? Okay, great. How far along is it booked till? We can see there's some in July, nothing in August yet, nothing in September, which is okay. But you also want to look, maybe you can go on Google, figure out when the seasonality is in Jacksonville, get a better idea if you don't already know. Another thing is outliers. So exactly what I was showing you guys here is, yes, this property right here, it has a pool, same bed count, very similar bath count. It is showing an average daily rate of $375, but it has no reviews. It has no stars. That is an outlier. That is something that could skew your potential comps and not something that you want to account for. Another one would be right here, how it has 1 review when we went to VRBO, and yes, the average daily rate is $350, but is it really bringing that in? Now, obviously, we found the same thing here when we went, and we could find out that it actually was pretty accurate with an actual higher average daily rate, but when we went over to this one, like I said, just because the listing is also on Airbnb and it shows on a different comp here, this 112 is still skewing the numbers. It's bringing down the average daily rate overall across the board in the neighborhood. So just, you guys have to keep those things in mind for those outliers. Now, how you can avoid them is just looking for similar looks and layouts in the property. Like I said, make sure that it has a similar aesthetic. You want consistent occupancy across the board. You want to look at the calendars. You want to see who's getting booked, how long, for what rates, and then strong review count. So again, 20 plus. If you can't find 20 plus, try to get it as close as humanly possible. You really don't want something less than 10. But that is basically the breakdown on how we would run comps without even having an address. I hope you guys got value out of that. We're going to go ahead and go into some success tips. Hopefully you guys got value out of that real-time, in-depth property breakdown. But of course, if you want to feel more confident, you can use both Airbnb and AirDNA for validation. You can look at calendar availability, and if it's booked midweek and weekends, it's usually a good sign. You can compare projected revenue with what you'd charge and just double check does it match. So always make sure that you're checking the ADR, the average daily rate, and occupancy. And then you can multiply them for solid revenue estimates as well. So let's recap. You just learned how to analyze a deal and run short-term rental comps without ever needing the address. You learned how to use our map radius, how to find real Airbnb comps, what filters to apply for an accurate match, and how to avoid costly mistakes. If you want to see more short-term rental deals like this, or if you're ready to start securing properties and get addresses, head to lohcasa.com and check out our latest listing. Got questions? Drop a comment or reach out to our team. We're here to help. With that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.